You are standing in the mouth of a cave. The air behind you is cold and wet. The air in front of you is orange and alive. A small fire crackles over a bed of embers. An elder crouches beside it. She does not speak. She does not use a stick or a fan. She simply brings her face close to the coals. Then she purses her lips and sends a surgical jet of air directly into the heart of the fire. The embers flare from black to screaming red. The flames rise again. The light pushes back the dark. Now here's the strange part. You already know exactly how to make that same breath. You used it this morning on a piece of toast. You used it on a spoonful of soup. The question is not whether you do it. The question is why. Why do humans instinctively blow on hot food when no other animal on Earth does anything like it? This is the story of the most ancient breath you will ever take. And here is the thing nobody tells you. We blow on hot food, not because we figured out some kitchen physics. We do it because we are the only ape that repurposed a violent survival tool. The pursed lip blow, the exact same motor pattern that once stood between our ancestors and freezing to death in the dark. That breath kept the fire alive for 1,000,000 years before it ever cooled a single meal. Stick with me, and you will never look at a hot slice of pizza the same way again. Let us start with the thing you do every day. You pick up a hot cup of coffee. You bring it close to your face. Your lips round into a tiny O shape. A thin, fast stream of air shoots out and hits the surface of the liquid. It is such a small automatic thing. You probably did not even decide to do it. But if you stop and look at it, the whole act is bizarre. A dog does not blow on its kibble. A cat does not blow on a sunbeam, warmed patch of floor. An elephant does not stand over a sun-scorched piece of fruit and channel a breeze through its trunk. Animals wait for food to cool. They paw at it. They drop it. They do not blow. So what is actually happening when we do it? The physics here is genuinely beautiful. Hot food, especially wet. Hot food is wrapped in a thin, invisible blanket of steam. That steam layer acts like a little insulating shield. It slows down the cooling process. When you open your mouth wide and just exhale, you push a big, slow cloud of warm air at the food. That does almost nothing. But when you purse your lips, you create a high-velocity focused jet. That jet punches right through the steam layer and smashes into the surface. It strips the insulation away and replaces it with cooler ambient air. The scientific term for this is forced convection. But honestly, the term does not matter. What matters is that it works fast, and it works because of a very specific mouth shape. And that mouth shape is the key to the whole story. Now here is the part that should bother you. How did this become an instinct? A human baby will often purse its lips and blow on food before anyone teaches it the physics of convection. We just do it. It feels right. So the question pushes backward in time. If the behavior is baked into us, where did the baking happen? And the evidence points to a single, very hot, very ancient answer: fire. We need to talk about Homo erectus. This was our direct ancestor who walked the earth for almost 2,000,000 years, a breathtakingly successful species. They spread from Africa all the way to Indonesia and China, and they are the first hominin we can confidently say controlled fire. The evidence comes from places like Wonderwork Cave in South Africa. Deep inside that cave, in layers dating back around 1,000,000 years, archaeologists found burnt plant ash and charred bone. Not a random lightning strike. A controlled campfire burning repeatedly in the same spot deep underground. And to keep a fire like that alive, you need a lot of skills. You need to find fuel. You need to build a structure that breathes. But you also need to manage the embers. You need to turn a dying glow back into a flame. And that is where the breath comes in. Here is where the science gets sharp. There is a branch of research called experimental archaeology. Researchers do not just dig up old campfires. They try to recreate the exact actions ancient humans took to build and sustain them. And researchers who specialize in pyrotechnology have demonstrated something crucial. Turning a dying spark into a healthy flame is not as simple as just huffing air at it. If you blow too hard and carelessly, you scatter the ash and the fragile ember goes cold. If you blow too softly, nothing happens and the fire dies anyway. You need a precise, sustained, targeted stream of air. You need to shape your mouth into a small, controlled aperture. You need the exact same pursed lip blow we were just talking about with the soup. Now think about the context. This is not a fun party trick. This is not a cool science experiment. For a Homo erectus band 500,000 years ago, the stakes of that breath were absolute. The sun has just gone down. The temperature is dropping toward freezing. You can hear giant hyenas whooping in the dark beyond the firelight. Your only source of warmth, your only real weapon against predators, Your only way to cook your food is that pile of glowing coals. If the fire dies, everyone is in deep, deep trouble. So the person who tends the fire, the keeper of the flame, leans in. Their life depends on the precise motor control of their lips and lungs. They blow. The ember catches. The flame returns. The band survives another night. This was a life or death neural program drilled into our ancestors for over 1,000,000 years. That is not a metaphor. That is evolutionary time. The individuals who could not perform this fine-tuned breath control were simply less likely to survive. The ones who could pass on not just their genes, but the deeply learned motor habit of the pursed lip blow. Generation after generation huddled around fires, teaching their children the one specific way to breathe life back into the light. And then something shifts. A new behavior enters the human story. A direct consequence of fire itself. Cooking. Cooking with fire was a revolution in the history of our bodies. It breaks down tough plant fibers and animal proteins on the outside of the food. It makes calories easier to digest. It frees up energy that allowed our brains to grow larger. But cooking also creates a very new and very specific problem. Food that is scalding hot. A roasted root pulled from the edge of the fire is steaming. A chunk of meat is sizzling. And here is the beautiful handoff. Our ancestors already had a tool perfectly designed for interacting with fire-heated objects at close range. The same focused breath that could coax a flame into life could also cool a flame-heated surface just enough to make it safe. The neural circuitry was already built. A lung control was already trained from childhood. It simply got recruited for a second job. This is a classic evolutionary move, by the way. It is called exaptation. When a trait that evolved for one reason gets co-opted for a completely different purpose. Bird feathers evolved for warmth, long before they were used for flight. The bones in your middle ear evolved from ancient fish jaw bones used for breathing. And your instinct to blow on hot pizza evolved from the fire-stoking breath of a Pleistocene hominin. The trait did not appear because of soup. It was already there standing guard. It just turned out to be spectacularly useful for a problem no one could have predicted. But here's the final piece of evidence that really seals this. Look at the other great apes. Chimpanzees do not blow on their food. They do not make that controlled pursed lip jet at all. They can pant, they can hoot, they can puff air loosely from their cheeks. But the specific fine motor control required to form a small O with the lips and sustain a thin, high-pressure stream of air is uniquely human. It requires a level of orofacial coordination that our closest living relatives simply do not possess. The fossil evidence tells us this control was carved into our lineage by the pressures of the Pleistocene. The shape of our face, the position of our hyoid bone, the neural wiring for our tongue and lips all co-evolved with the demands of speech, and yes, fire management. Every time you blow on a hot bite of food, you are flexing a muscle system that separated us from the rest of the ape family. So let us rewind the tape back to the cave for a moment. Back to that elder kneeling in the cold. She was not thinking about her orofacial motor control or the physics of forced convection. She was thinking about keeping her family alive, and she did it with the same small breath you just used to cool your coffee. Think about that for a second. Every time you blow on a spoonful of soup, you are not just cooling your meal. You are firing a neural circuit that once meant the difference between a warm, safe night and being eaten in the dark. The breath of life and the breath of a meal are one and the same. We like to think of our daily habits as small, trivial things, but most of them are echoes of a world we have left behind. But that has not quite left us. 1,000,000 years of firelight are hiding in the shape of your lips. So the next time someone gives you a strange look for blowing aggressively on your mac and cheese, just tell them you are practicing a survival skill from the lower Paleolithic. They will definitely understand. Now, if you want to know why your own brain lights up like dry kindling when you stare into a campfire, I made a whole video on that. It is called Fire in the Mind, and it is right over there.